can see I'm just cutting these in little cubes. If you've ever had eggplant and you didn't like it, probably didn't brown it when they were cooking it. That's what it looks like all plated up. Man, anyone that says that's flavorless just doesn't know flavor. Hey, it's Greg here with MaritimeGardening.com, and today I'm going to do a video on how I like to cook eggplant. I was doing a garden tour recently and one of my viewers noticed that I got a lot of eggplant in the garden, and they said, boy, my family doesn't like it. Maybe you can show us how you cook it, maybe we'll like it your way. So that's what I'm going to do today. And just before I start, this video is brought to you by True Classic, trueclassictees.com. These ones, they have a way of fitting that just sort of make you look better than you actually do. Suck it in, push it out, and actually you look like you're in pretty good shape, right? So I highly recommend. They gave me a bunch of these for nothing, so I told them I'd plug it at the beginning of my cooking videos. So check that out, trueclassictees.com. Great t-shirts, and they're more than just black t-shirts like this. The only reason in all my cooking videos I wear a black t-shirt so it doesn't get stained. But they have lots of other kind of stylish looking shirts, and I have to say Mrs. Maritime Gardening likes the way they look. So moving on, eggplant. So all you need to cook eggplant the way I do is I think a non-stick pan is best. You can use cast iron or whatever, but you're going to need a little bit more oil. You're going to have to use oil in this recipe. You really can't get around it, in my opinion, but you need a lot less with a non-stick pan. All right, so we got a non-stick pan on medium heat. I'm just going to do one eggplant. You can do two, you can do three. I find this way of cooking it's kind of intense, so it's a nice thing to add to a dish. Like if we normally have this with pasta dish on the side. It just has this intense, it's a garlicky kind of recipe, and a little bit of spice. Really easy to make, but it takes a bit of time, and there's a certain trick to it. So all I need is an eggplant, some garlic. I've got my own garlic paste made from garlic scapes. They're these little things that grow out of garlic. But you can use just regular cloves of garlic. I'm just using this because I've got it. I'd use 1, 2, or 3 cloves of garlic per eggplant, all you're going to need. Cumin. I'm going to use about a teaspoon of cumin per eggplant. This is the cumin full-size seeds. You can also use powder. I like the seeds because when you fry them, they pop and it gets a unique taste. A little bit of salt and some olive oil. You can use whatever oil you like. Okay, I just got olive oil, that's what I'm going to use. All right, so step one is we cut this eggplant up. All right, get your knife nice and sharp. Right, if you don't know anything about sharpening knives, the reason your knives are no good is because you don't know how to sharpen them. Get your knives nice and sharp, and then get one of these sharpening steels, and every time you cook, just do this. 1, 2, 3, and then it'll be as sharp as can be, which just makes everything easier. Okay, so we lop off the stem end here, toss that, and let me show you how I cut this up. All right, the trick here is to get a nice flat working surface. So I just cut the bottom off about that thick, that's like 1/2 inch, a centimeter and a half. Now I got a nice flat thing here. I'm going to cut them each to that thickness, about 1.5 centimeters or about 1/2 inch, give or take, right? Depends on if you're metric. All my viewers are always saying, I use imperial, I use metric, I use this, I use that. In Canada we kind of use both, I think. I'm not sure if we're officially metric or not, but I think we're metric. You go to the grocery store, everything's in both. It's very confusing. I was kind of raised on both. My parents were older than me, so they use the one, I use the other. I don't know why people get so hot under the collar about these things. They're both good systems. Although math is a lot easier if you're using metric, because it's all base 10. Anyway, and you can see I'm just cutting these in little cubes that are about 1/2 inch or 1.5 centimeters in size. Doesn't matter, you don't have to be that fussy about it, okay? What we're going to do is, in the fry pan, the key to making this taste good is frying and browning and not steaming and boiling, okay? It's the fried effect, that browning, that makes this eggplant good. And when this is all done, it's kind of like a mush with some degree of texture. I've eaten eggplant in some restaurants. Some of them looks like they put it in a blender. It shouldn't be like that. It should be kind of mushy but have a texture to it. So I'll show you as we go along here. Okay, this is all cut up, assuming the pan's ready. Let's go over to the pan. Let me show you the rest of this. Okay, so we got our pan heated up. We're going to put about a tablespoon or so, maybe a tablespoon and a half, 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Okay, move that around a bit. Stick your cube in, see if we got sizzle. No sizzle yet, so we got to wait a minute for this to heat up. Okay, I'll be back in a second when this starts to sizzle. Okay, so we got a bit of a sizzle going here, so we can put all of these in. All right. If you don't put these in when the pan's at the right temperature, they won't saute. Instead, they'll kind of just heat and boil. So you want to just move these around a bit and get them all coated in the oil. I think I need a little bit more. I mean, this is not, the eggplant's healthy, but you're going to add a bit, there's going to be a bit of oil in this. So you just can't get around it. That's why we usually only will do, unless we have company and we've got 8 people, but for 4 people, I think 1 eggplant is enough because it's kind of an intense dish. And you have it with stuff and it really enhances the flavor of whatever it is you're eating. Okay, now while this is in here, I'm going to put a teaspoon of these cumin. I really should have put the cumin in before I put the eggplant in, but it's fine putting it at this stage because we really barely started everything going, right? It's barely getting going. And also, we're going to put in the garlic. So I'm going to put in like 2 heaping tablespoons of this garlic scape paste, which is just a kind of mild form of garlic, so it's not as strong as regular garlic. But you'd put 1 or 2 or 3 good cloves of garlic in there, right? So you put all that in. I mean, a lot of times when you're cooking with garlic, you want to put garlic in the oil at the beginning. But with this, because it's going to be cooking for so long, the garlic will kind of, it'll overcook. So you want it cooking, in my opinion anyway, you want it cooking with the eggplant. And you notice I haven't added any salt yet, okay? I like to add salt a little bit later. I'm going to use half a teaspoon of salt. But I like to add that a little bit later because the salt will draw moisture out of the eggplant. And you don't want that right now. You want it browning. If it's drawing moisture out, then it's going to be steaming and the eggplant won't brown up properly. You want it nicely browned. So really right now I'm just tossing everything around to get the garlic and get the cumin touching everything, right? Every little cube has a little bit of garlic and a little bit of cumin. And for me, that is going to make a really nice flavor. Okay, now I think I've got everything nicely coated with everything. And one way to speed up the cooking is to have a lid like this. So this is a lid for like these pots we use in the Maritimes for cooking lobster. And it's sort of like, it's flared up. And why this is the kind of lid you want for cooking something like this, you don't want to be steaming these plants, or the eggplant, right? You want the steam to be able to get out, but you want to hold some of the heat in. So this will reflect the heat back down into the pan, but it'll allow all the steam to get away. So it's ideal for anything you're trying to brown and you don't want to steam. And notice it doesn't fit properly, right? So the steam can get out around, right? But it's almost the right size. You just go to any, yard sale, or in Canada we have a store called Value Village where you can get used stuff. Just buy a lid that doesn't fit your pan properly, and it's great for speeding up cooking times. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to flit around the kitchen, setting the table, cleaning up, doing stuff like that. And every about 3 minutes, I'll just lift this lid off and give it a stir, okay? I'm going to keep doing that till I get everything brown on medium heat. It's just a bit higher than medium. Okay, so we'll see in a couple minutes. All right, so it's been a couple minutes here. Let's have a look and see what we got here. There's always some stuff on the lid, so you always scrape that off. All right. What I'm looking for is some sign of browning, and I've got it. Look, you can see that right there. Just see how it's browning on the underside, right? That's what we want, right? Everything's brown. You can't perfectly flip over each cube. That's impossible, right? but it's browning. Not burning, browning. I just turn the heat down a little bit more, right? Because I know now that I've got it perfectly cooking. And if you do this wrong, if you burn this, you can turn the skin into something that tastes like cardboard. So you want to do it just right, right? Have a pan that's the right size. Notice there's no space here. Everything's touching, everything's covered. I haven't got any open spaces on the pan. All right, so I just sort of tossed everything around, put the lid back on for another couple minutes. All right, see you in a couple minutes. All right, let's check this out again here. Oh, now we're browning up good. Look at that now. See that browning, right? That's your flavor. If you're not browning the eggplant, you're just not, again, you don't want to burn, but if you're not browning it, you're not going to get, if you've ever eaten really good eggplant, cooked eggplant, and you don't know why that eggplant tastes so much better than yours, it's because you're not browning it. Or if you've ever had eggplant and you didn't like it, they probably didn't brown it when they were cooking it. Okay, that's all I gotta say, because it makes all the difference in the world. All right, so we're gonna go just another couple minutes here for one more browning session, because that builds flavor, right? It's called the Maillard reaction. It's a Maillard reaction. And it just makes, it adds complexity of flavor to food and makes everything taste better, whether it's a steak or grilled chicken shish kebabs or plantain or whatever. You brown it, it's gonna taste better. I'll see you in 2 minutes. Okay, you can really hear this is going now, right? And I just wanted to talk about, a lot of people think of eggplant as like this flavorless sponge that picks up the flavor of whatever you're cooking it with. I mean, it does take on flavor, but it's wrong to say it has no flavor of its own. It has a very distinct flavor. The whole house has a smell now. And yes, it has a smell of sautéed garlic, but garlic and eggplant. Eggplant has a flavor. It just needs to be cooked for an amount of time. It needs to be seared, sautéed, browned, and then cooked properly. And then it's just got this great flavor. There's really nothing like it. Okay, so I think this is browned up enough that we've imparted that nice caramelization, that nice flavor. I think it's enough. Okay, so now I'm going to turn the heat down. See, this thing goes from low to high, but really goes from like low is 1 and high is 9. So I've got it on 2. Okay, so a very low simmer. Okay, again, I'm going to spread this all out. Now, I'm going to put a different lid on, a lid that's domed. Okay, now I want to hold, it's got a little hole for the heat to escape, but now I do want to steam this, right? I've lowered the heat. I want to hold the heat in. I want to keep the steam in, and I want to just slow cook this on a low heat. Okay, so I'm going to check it in about 5 minutes just to make sure everything's okay, it's not burning. But really in about 15 minutes, this should be done. And I'll check it every 5 minutes. All right, so I'll be back in the first check. All right, it's been about 5 minutes. Just going to check this out. So you see a lot of steam here. That's okay. It's good. You see it's sort of boiling now, right? Because we're holding the water in. That's what we want. This is still not done. It's almost done, but it should be, you want the pieces of the eggplant to not hold themselves together, almost to be like softer, mushier. You want a good deal, I don't know what you'd say, like 80% of the texture gone, in my opinion anyway, for good cooked eggplant. If you're chewing it, if you're feeling a sort of chew, to me, you haven't cooked it enough. It tastes better when it's thoroughly cooked. All right, so I'm gonna let this go another 5 minutes. All right, we'll see you in 5 minutes. All right, so I just filmed the next stage of this and I didn't have my camera on, so I gotta sort of just tell you what I just did. So I just took the lid off. I added half a teaspoon of salt because I forgot to salt this earlier. Okay, so when you change lids from the lid that lets the steam out to the lid that holds the steam, you want to add about half a teaspoon of salt. You can go 1/4 teaspoon of salt, but I wouldn't go any more than half a teaspoon for one eggplant. You want a little trick for not over-salting your food. I'm notoriously forgetful and easily distracted, and lots of times I'll be in the kitchen working and one of my kids or my wife will come in and ask me a question, and I'll forget that I put salt in and I'll put more salt in. So here's the trick. And put the salt right next to the pan, okay, like I've got here, and add the salt. And when you've added the salt, put the salt next to the pan when you begin. When you've added the salt, move it away, far away from the pan, right? That way, if the salt's nowhere near, you get in that habit, if the salt's nowhere near the pan, you know you've already added it, right? For every new thing you introduce to the range, every new thing you're cooking when you're using salt, put it next to the pan at the beginning, add your salt, take it far away from the pan, then you won't double salt, because you add too much salt, you don't have enough salt, it doesn't taste right. You add too much, it tastes wrong. All right, anyway, I'll see you in 5 minutes. All right, so that's the third little simmering session. I'd say this is about done. So, you know, from start to finish, I'd say this takes about 30 minutes to cook, right? So, but it's you know, there's a lot of just waiting. So you get this going and you'd be making something else while this is working along, right? This is just one thing you've got on the range while you're cooking your other stuff. But I'd say this is the right amount of doneness. So let me just plate this up and give her a taste and show you that stage of it. All right, so let's just roll this out into a plate. So again, this doesn't look like a lot, but this is a very savory, intense dish. I mean, you can make more of it, right? But we put about 2 tablespoons of oil in this, and it's just got a very strong, to me anyway, because of the garlic and the cumin. So, you know, we don't have a lot. We have about this much, and it seems to satisfy everyone. Everybody just gets about a quarter of it, right? But I could sit down and eat this whole plate myself right now, right? So, right, that's what it looks like all plated up. Okay, it's quite soft, right? Everything here is soft, almost like a cooked mushroom would be the way I describe you can see any one of these pieces I can just mush, right? So it's quite soft. In terms of the flavor, I mean, if you've never had eggplant before, it's hard to explain, but it's got a lovely, I mean, it's one of these things, you know, you buy it and cook it and see what you think, and if you like it, especially if you've got a nice warm climate, grow lots of it in your garden. Man. Yeah. Anyone that says that's flavorless just doesn't know flavor. Eggplant's got a flavor all its own, and it's hard to describe, but it's very savory, very good. For me, I like to have this with things. Yeah, I wouldn't just have this with the rice and a salad, right? I like some sort of dish, you know, whatever it is, some sort of main course, and this is a side, okay? But it's a delicious side, and if eggplant grows really well where you are, you know, it's a relatively easy thing to grow if you've got the right temperature and good soil. So definitely give it a try. But yeah, if you've had eggplant before and didn't like it, try cooking it this way, see what you think. You can also adjust. You can add more garlic, you can add less salt, you can add some pepper. Really depends on your imagination, right? But play around with it and get it the way you like it. But this is how I do it most of the time, and we love it. And I got lots of them growing. A whole bed of eggplant in the garden this year. I really hope something bad doesn't happen to them. Every year, well, like a hurricane, they all get knocked over and killed and that sort of thing. So you just never know how things are going to work out. Anyway, that's how I do it. Hope you found this interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. Until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden and in your kitchen. Thanks for watching. Hey, if you want to help support everything I'm doing here, go to vessies.com to buy whatever you need for your garden this year. And use my coupon code GAVS23 to get free shipping as long as there's a pack of seeds in the order and there's no oversized items in the order. Check out the description box of this video for details. You can buy everything you need from Vessies. They have seeds, fruit bushes and trees, soil amendments, pest solutions, tools, clothing, and lots of other stuff too. So yeah, if you want to help support everything I'm doing here and they sell something you need, buy it from them using my coupon code, and happy gardening.